Hey guys, welcome back. It's me, Gimpy, and I'm here with the final part of my review through on Legion Games Picket Duty. This is the second edition of it. I do want to say before I get started, I do appreciate the support some of you guys have sent me here recently. Some of you guys saw on Facebook that my little boy wasn't doing too well, and we've been in and out of the hospital with him. And you guys were sending me messages and prayers and best wishes, and we do appreciate that. We're taking him back to the doctor tomorrow, and we're hoping that he's going to get a clean bill of health. So we're just waiting to see what we hear back from him. But that's why you guys haven't seen this video up until this point, because I've gotten held up with that. But he's resting comfortably for now, so it gave me some time to take and get the second part of this filmed up for you guys. As always, make sure you check the Gimpy's Game giveaway video if you're just now seeing this, and make sure you just subscribe and leave a comment on that video for your chance to win. Now, we're back here with Picket Duty, and we had ran through the first part of it where kind of explained where you get your numbers and all the different aspects of the ship. We had ran through some different fighter waves and had 3 fighters come at us, and we took a little bit of damage, nothing major. Now, I'm not going to run through every single aspect, but I want to make sure and touch on a little bit of everything so you guys understand the premise of the game and whether or not it's for you. So I'm going to pick up here at the repair point where we're at. And normally you would do your repairs and then any following waves, but we're just going to take and handle our repairs and then pretty much touch on final thoughts and everything. Now, we had taken some damage, very minor. One of our rooms over here in our secondary compartments. And like I said in the previous video, this is the actual sheet itself. I've just got it under plexiglass, and I'm using a dry erase marker for that and my officer stats to keep track of it. But we took 1 damage here in our mess room, nothing major. And then we took deck fire because obviously we got hit. So we've got to take and make some repairs on this and see what we can do. Now, depending on where your ship is hit is going to depend on how many repair crew are going to take and come in and be allowed to help. And there's a whole little plot with it. Advanced rules. Okay, this is an advanced rules thing. I don't think this is in the basic. Your deck fire is the first thing we're going to take care of. It is listed down here on our detailed sequence of play. After assigning all our damage control, we're going to start with our deck fires. I'm going to go ahead and do my deck fire, and then I'll show you guys where I put my repair crew. Now, these are very easy to understand. You're just going to take and keep rolling a d6, and you're looking for a 1 to 4. You get a 1 to 4, you take it off. You get a 5 or 6, you add another counter, and then you do it again. And if you fail again, you add another counter to it. Now, you'll stop at that point with 1 space being left for potential fire, and then you would do your subsequent wave. Now, if you took damage that caused another deck fire there, your ship would effectively be destroyed. The fire would be considered out of control, and the ship has burnt up at that point. So you really don't want to do anything. Don't let this get out of hand. But there's honestly not much you can do about it. It's really a game of chance at that point. Repair crews can't be assigned to it. The way it's figured is that all the crew has been trained on fire suppression, and all of them are going to be trying to take and put out deck fire. So you're not going to take and put specific crew counters on deck fires. You're just going to automatically do that. So let's go ahead and do that now, see if we can get rid of our deck fire we've got going on here. All we need is a 1 to 4. We got a 5. Of course we did. All right, so we're going to place another deck fire, and let's take and roll one more time and see if we can get this. Now, if we succeed here, 1 to 4, both of these get wiped out. The whole fire gets put out. All right, so let's roll. 2. Okay, so they did get put out. No biggie there. Now, like I said, had we failed that second roll, we would have added a 3rd counter and left it at that point. If there had already been a fire in this space at that point, you would have just overrun. So you're going to roll on it a couple of different times. But if we took another hit in the forward section, bam, that'd have been game. As soon as a deck fire is filled up, all 4 of them, your ship is considered to be out of control and on fire. Now, let's take and pan up. I'm going to take and zoom in on my repair crews because you guys don't need to see this part for the next thing that we're going to. Okay, so when we're doing our repairs, that's going to be focused on this area up here. Now, for us, since we only took damage in our secondary compartment, we're going to be focused on this little area here to the right. And you see how it's got it listed down forward, midship, aft, and water lines, depending on where you took your damage at. We took damage into a secondary compartment that was in our forward section. Now, for each compartment in your secondary area that is damaged, you can assign one crew member from your repair crews to that area to give yourself a roll to attempt to successfully repair it. We've only got one damaged section, so we can assign one from our forward group of guys over there. Now with secondaries, none of your officers or repair chiefs or any of those guys come into play, and they don't get the inherent one value that a primary compartment will get. I'll touch on that here in just a sec. But for our purposes, you get one crew member per damage compartment, and then you make one roll per crew member that is assigned. So we've got one flat out across the board, and we're going to take and roll, like I said, 1d6, and it's very similar to the deck fire. On a 1 to 4, the compartment's going to be repaired, and on a 5 or 6, that compartment is going to stay damaged, and our crew member is going to stay in that slot. But on a subsequent repair attempt, he gets to add a +1 to his roll, or a -1 to his roll, rather. So let's take and roll. Yeah, we got a 5. So we failed. I am just failing these things pretty bad right now. So, oh well, he'll stay there. No big deal. Now, as far as your main primary compartments are concerned, they can take up to 3 crew members to take and repair them, and you're going to take and put those crew members directly in those spaces. So let's say our engine room aft here was hit. We could put up to 3 crew members. We could send the repair chief, and officers could take and assist as well. Your XO has to take and help. Your damage control officer can help. Your engineer can take and help in certain compartments. He can't go to all compartments, and their ratings are going to affect that. Now, for each hit you have in a compartment, it's going to be a modifier, okay? Each one of those is going to give you a -2. And let's just grab our little repair chart here. Your damage control attempts, it's very similar to the others where you're taking and getting a negative or a positive value. And depending on where it is, that's going to adjust your column. So you're wanting to get it as positive as possible so you have a higher chance for success. Like before, it lists down your modifiers at the side for however many crew members, if it's your second attempt, your officer stats, all that's going to affect it. And then you'll just take and roll on it like usual to see if they take and repair it. These little hit markers, each one of those is going to give you a -2. It's not 1 per hit marker, it's 2 per hit marker. So if the room is hit, 3 times, you're going to have a -6 modifying it. It's going to make it obviously much harder to repair when you make your repair attempts. And if a compartment is completely destroyed, like it's had all 4 filled up, or it's been flooded, or it got an absolutely destroyed result on a damage roll, then there is no repair attempt. You can't take and repair a completely destroyed item while you're at sea. You have to take and actually sail back and get repairs made. So up until that point, you'll take and be moving without whatever item it is that you've had at that point. Now, it is neat in our little, I like how they did this, how they've got the detailed player aid, because you can just walk right down it, and I like that. It lists down each one of the little areas that you're going to take and repair, and then you'll take and get into your following waves at that point. So at this point, we would take, and let me back camera out, our other 2 planes that we had taken and drawn for our wave. They were going to come in at 90 medium and 90 low. we're not going to worry about rolling through because that's going to be done the exact same way as we did our first 3. So let's touch on the last few things that happen in a game turn, and then my final thoughts on it. Now, at the end of each phase, you're going to take and do a hull integrity point loss check, and it's going to depend on how many planes hit you. So 1 to 2 planes, you'll roll on this column. 3 or more planes, you'll roll on this column. And it's how many planes actually hit your ship, not like they were a near miss. Like, did they actually crash into the ship and cause damage? So we had one of those happen to us. So we're going to take and roll 2d6 on our hull integrity point loss and see what kind of hull that we could potentially be losing here. Hopefully not too much, but we'll see what happens. Ooh, what is that? 8. 8 puts us at 2 hull points, so we'll take and knock our hull down 2 points. Now, if you take and hit 0, that's when you're going to take and potentially be rolling on this chart here, your hull integrity, where your ship could go down and sink at this point. But when it hits 0, that's the time when, hey, I'm going to be shipping back to port and trying not to sink with all men on board. So do keep that in mind. If your hull drops down to 0, you're rolling on table 14 as well. Okay, so at this point in the turn sequence, after you've finished off your waves, you've finished off your repairs and everything, you do a few end of the turn sequence type things where you're checking your morale, your ammunition, and your fuel supply. And as always, you've got a few charts to go by. Modifiers are going to affect these. For our morale check, you're basically looking at your captain and your chief petty officer. Mine, I've got a +1 for the captain and a 0 for the chief petty officer, so I'm rolling on the +1. There are other modifiers, like if your secondary compartments are staying damaged, that can give you a -1 on this table as well. So, and that's actually listed down right here, but we're at the +1, so we're going to roll and see where our morale goes. We're going to just roll 1d6 on the +1 table. Well, 2, not very good. 2 is a 0 here, so we're going to stay at 0, and then you're just going to take and move your morale forward or backwards, just depending. And then we're going to check for ammo and fuel consumption. Ammo you're going to roll on if you fired any guns, okay? It's not just special planes where you're firing off ammo counters for that. This is just, hey, did you shoot some guns? All right, let's take and roll on it. And that's how many you're going to lose on your track up here at the top. So let's take and roll, see what we got. And we got a 6. 6 is going to cost us 2, so we'll take and move our ammo counter down 2. And we're going to do the same thing for our fuel consumption to see how much we spent during this turn. A 2 gives us a 1, so we're going to take and spend 1 fuel supply during this point of the turn. Now, after you get done taking and checking all your morale and ammunition, fuel supply, making sure your ship still has radar and all that good stuff, there's the potential to take and go back to port. You can make the decision to do that, to refuel, replenish, repair. As usual, charts to roll on to see how long you're going to be in port. If you do go back, you can choose to stay if you don't think your ship's that damaged, and continue on with your mission if you do have more days left in it, at which point you'll take and get a new duty station. Your crew members will have new chits drawn for them, all that good stuff going at that point. That's if you take and replenish, excuse me. But if you stay, everything stays the same. But as far as the game goes, components, great, love it. Like I said in the first video, counters are great. Only problem was with those little blue counters, our little information counters here. These little screwballs, for some reason, some of them are a little wider than others, and I don't get why it's like that. Doesn't make any sense to me. The rest of them are perfect. They stack great. Makes no sense. Map's good. Player aids are great. Enough charts to give you a good chunk of gameplay and good replayability and lots of decisions to make without being overly burdensome. Okay, target for today. If you guys watch me play that, it had multiple books of charts. This just has one, and there's not a buttload in there to weigh you down. And it feels like this game actually has more choice to it. See, that's the thing that got me, right? I told you guys at the beginning that for me, games like this come down to, how much choice, how much game am I actually playing, and how much is it just me rolling the dice and seeing what happens. And I think that even though Target for Today has more charts and more technical options, I guess you could say, that one felt more like going through the motions and seeing what happens to you, while this feels much more game, much more choices to be made. My decisions have impact, especially if you have a lot of planes coming in, your ship's taking damage, where you're deciding to aim your guns. That especially because you have multiple different types of guns, not just, all the same type of machine guns. Some might be linked or twin linked, and then some are just singles. There's 20 mils, 40 mils, 5 inchers. And then not only do you have those, but then you're trying to decide, do I separate out my big guns or do I keep them together so I can have them slaved to the radar and gun director and have a bonus that way? And then which angles are the enemy planes coming in? So which guns are best to aim at these different planes? All the decisions that you're making at that, because the planes can come in from multiple different vectors and then different heights on each one of those vectors, and the guns can't hit every single part. And then you add in the fact that depending on what damage your ship has taken, you could potentially be listing to the side, reducing the amount of guns that you can actually bring to bear. That's awesome. The amount of choice that you have in this game, I think, is far greater than the others. You have to decide where you send your repair crews. You have to decide where you send your officers. You have to make that choice, because if you send your officers to an area that's risky to get hit, your officer can get killed. And the neat part is that you can promote up your little stacks of counters here that, okay, this officer got killed, so every officer below him is stepping up and filling that spot, and it'll go down to the repair chiefs, all the way at the bottom of your little player aid over there. And your repair chief will step up into whatever officer position, and then you'll assign a new repair chief from one of the crew counters, repair crew counters, and you remove that repair crew counter to simulate that. So you really are losing a counter to replace an officer, and it is more like combat in the fact that you're replacing that missing crew member. I think that's neater than hell. Now, the planes that attack you, for the most part, I haven't seen that it makes that big of a difference. There are some special rules involving certain planes like the Willows, which are the little biplanes that are in it. And then, of course, you've got the special attackers that could potentially have torpedoes or bombs or things like that on the plane that can affect you when they're making their different attack runs. I like how they have all the different options, because it makes the game feel more thematic. It's more of a Chrome thing, though. You'll get a kick out of it. It's not like the most needed thing. There could be, a third or 50% of the counters, plane counters that come in the game, and you could still play it just fine without any issues. But it is nice that they have the extra counters going with it. I gotta say, out of the games of this ilk that I've played, this one is now at the top of my list. And part of it's I like ships. I like ships more than I like bombers. So that's a personal thing. Take that into consideration. If you're a big plane guy, you're a big bomber guy, B-17s are your thing. Target for Today might be more up your alley. But if you're like me and you like ships better or subs better, this one's definitely going to float your boat, because it is an excellent game. Like I said, the component quality is outstanding. And your choice, you really just do have so much choice. And the basic game compared to the advanced game, really just play the advanced game. You might play a round of the basic game just to learn it and get all the nitty gritty down. But once you've played it a few times, you're going to want those advanced rules. Now, I'm saying advanced rules, not optional rules, right? Because there are a lot of different optional rules, like I said, about the Willow and other different planes that can get fiddly. So you don't have to take in and worry about those if you don't want to. The advanced game has plenty of replayability. plenty of choice involved with it, plenty of different modifiers. And I like how Legion Games does it, where most of the modifiers that you need to worry about are listed next to the chart anyway. Not all of them. There are a few circumstances where it's listed in the rulebook, not necessarily next to the chart, but that seemed to be more the exception than the rule as far as that was concerned. For the most part, everything's right there. Like I said, I'm much happier that they put a detailed walkthrough in this game to walk you down the steps, because, I mean, those of you who know me, my memory's not great, so having that to follow on so I make sure I don't miss a step. Because when I was walking through this earlier, I forgot about the part about checking for my hull integrity, and I was making sure I was going back over it and found it. So I like that. Definite improvement. But yes, I highly recommend it if you're a solitaire wargamer and you want something shit-based. Pick it up. I really can't think of much that's better than Picket Duty. It is an outstanding game. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I will definitely have it on my table again. It is up there with me as Silent Victory is. I think Silent Victory has a good amount of choice involved with it, of decisions you can make that actually affect the game, and the fact that Silent Victory has an app that goes along with it, kind of help that out with all the rolling. This doesn't have too much, but if someone did make an app to where you didn't have to pick up that chart book at all, this thing would probably never leave my table. Any of you computer geeks out there, keep that in mind. Make us an app for this. But yeah, highly recommend it. Great game. Definitely check it out. NWS War Games, I know he has it in stock now, because that's where I got mine. So you can order it from him, or you can order it direct from Legion War Games. Chris over at NWS seems to be a little bit easier to get a hold of. I've contacted Legion before, and sometimes they've been quick, and sometimes you never hear back from them. So it just depends, I guess, on what's going on at the company. But I know Chris over at NWS does good work, and he ships out quick. And I think it's on sales like $45 or so, if I remember right, for whatever he's pricing it. With as much game as you get in Picket Duty, yeah, outstanding price. Order it in a heartbeat. It is absolutely worth it. So definitely check it out. But anyway, that's going to be it for me. You guys take care. I will see you in the next one.